Good morning and welcome to a Soulful Pause. I am Josette Diaz, and I have the honor of having a wonderful guest this morning that you're going to absolutely love. Her name is Laura Ballet. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Laura. I'll check with you in a moment. And Laura is a fantastic woman who has written a beautiful book called The Science of Empowerment. And she is a global top-selling author and thought, energy, mindset, transformational coach and speaker, and mind development and human awareness activator. I mean, you guys are in for a treat. Laura's skill set, gathered wisdom, and personal discipline to advance human potential is evident in her creative work. For those who are willing to expand their present mindset, dissolve negative patterns and behaviors, and elevate into their unique potential, they are in for a 360-degree view on how to activate and sustain personal empowerment. So you're all going to want to stay tuned for that because this is going to be an exciting conversation. And I am looking forward to it. So we will be back in just a moment and we'll get started. Ladies, are you the one who gets it all done? Always pushing forward, always striving? In the constant chase for success, when was the last time you took a moment just for you? We're always on the go, rushing from one task to the next, barely pausing to catch our breath. What if we took a moment to pause? Imagine listening in, really listening, to the wind, to your heartbeat, to your soul. What if slowing down was the key, a chance to discover a deeper connection with yourself? And from that connection expand it to those you love, to the moments that truly matter. Pause, reflect, connect. It's time to live fully from the inside out. Haha, we're here.
We're here.
The fun
I
of
love
going
live.
live. So, Laura, thank you so much for being here with me. I am so excited.
Thank
I
you.
kn Me too. It's fun because it's not a perfect experience all the time, and, it gets to show what real life is like. This is how we do it, right? So, I wanna just start off by having you kind of talk a little bit about yourself and, the science of empowerment,
Mm.
and I'd like to know, let's see, because I know that there's so many beautiful concepts that are in this book, and I'm really excited to talk to you about them. So I wanna hear from you directly about, the concept of thought energy, and can you explain how someone can harness this energy to create an empowering mindset, and what are kinda like some of the first steps on that journey?
Mm. I was thinking about this just
I know I
listening.
gave you a lot.
That's
It's a lot.
okay. That's okay. It's all swirling in here anyways. Well, many of us don't look at our thought processes, right? They just move through us. We never stop, as you say, and pause and think about how we are thinking about thought. There's an energy
Mhm,
structure
mhm.
to our words, to the essence, to the meaning, to the feelings,
Yeah.
to the sensations around our thoughts. But we just don't stop. We don't pause. Either to give ourself
Mhm.
compassion, to reflect on how we can maybe offer, right, safe spaces for others. So there's this heavy kind of momentum on just doing. And I love the ad that
Mhm.
was there in the program, really taking time to reflect and slow down and give ourselves a
Yeah.
moment to really think about it. And so many people talk about thoughts in
Mhm.
a way, again, they're just patterns. And they are these reoccurring algorithms that we just shoot out, right? That we just are. We're just very reactionary with our spouses, our partners, at work, out in the world. And when you become
Mhm.
someone that is aware of the energy around your thinking, now you get to really begin to create an empowered life. IN.
Mhm.
Then this empowers every
Mhm.
interaction.
Yes, I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
yes. I love that you have rephrased that it's not empowered, it's empowered,
Yeah.
and, that I think is something that's so important, and you said a couple of other things, like the energy around your thoughts, and I really do believe in that, there each word has its own energy, right? We always have heard things like choose your words carefully, watch what you say. I think that's why sometimes, people stay away from curse words because they can have a certain like survival sort of energy about them. And so I love that you're talking about that because and the patterns of the way people think, we don't always pay attention to that. And what brought you into this kind of work, and what made this something that you honed in on? Because I know you have a story around this, and I'd
Yeah.
love for everyone to hear that.
Yeah, so just briefly, my brother Christopher is a former USA gymnastics coach, and he has worked with champions and Olympians his whole life. So mindset was something that was very natural to
Mm,
both he and I, just being athletic. And the way we grew up, we were
yeah,
always taught to authorize our own way of thinking. It's just something that our parents did. And we grew up being more aware of how we thought, not necessarily how we felt. And there's a beautiful nuance between the two. But for some reason, the way my mind and brain matrix is wired, I went into thinking first
mm,
because I always have a thought right before I have the feeling. And I wanted to know, what is it that I'm thinking that's creating the feeling? And is it a pattern? Is it something that was done to me? Was it something that I observed? And
mhm,
how am I taking it in? And how is that shaping who I'm becoming? And
right.
my brother and I have really always talked about this. So he created this amazing formula that he's worked with
Mhm,
champions on. And I just got really intrigued. And I said, what about everyday people like me, just a normal kid moving through the day?
yeah,
How can I apply this formula to really transform my life, empower my
mm,
potential, my highest and best self, so that when I am interacting with others, I'm actually creating an empowered
mhm.
exchange. And therefore, we get to be in service and really work on elevating the collective.
I love that. So what are some, if you don't mind, would you give, like, an example of how to be empowered?
Yeah. So I have a great story. One of my clients came to me, and she and her husband were on the verge of a divorce, and it
Mhm,
just unfortunately was quite negative. And she was going through the patterns of her thinking.
yeah,
And I politely and professionally kind of interjected. And just asked her a simple question. Have you said thank you to your husband recently?
mhm,
And the moment I said that, she just burst into tears because it
mhm,
stopped the pattern. And she realized she was so ingrained in holding him accountable for everything that was wrong.
mhm.
She lost the love. She
Mhm,
lost it
mhm.
for herself and for him. So the
Yeah,
reason I bring that story up is because she did go home and she said, "Thank you for how hard you work." Even he was a workaholic in her eyes, but provided a beautiful home and vacations, and their children went to
right.
college. All of these wonderful things, and their whole life changed. Their whole marriage changed, of course.
Yeah.
She started to understand that when she applied the formula, and
Mhm,
what helps really kind of activate thought energy potential, when she became aware of what she was thinking, when she was willing to change the energy around that thought, i.e., negative.
Yeah.
begin to neutralize it, and then she actually experienced something positive from it. She held herself accountable to the pattern.
Yeah.
She was able to suspend the emotionality around it and
Mhm.
begin to exercise and apply critical thinking.
Mhm.
Then she went into the full on force of energy,
Yeah.
negative, positive, neutral. Which one am I? And how can I position myself into the power seat of neutrality? Now, I know this is a lot, but that was the formula, the 5 principles right there in less than a minute. And it absolutely changed the whole trajectory of both of their lives.
Can you kind of expand on, you just said, the power of neutrality,
Mm,
and can you expand on what that means
yeah,
to, the pattern itself in the way that the energy you're bringing to your thoughts, and I'll
yeah.
let you take it from there.
And I love this. This is like my favorite new superpower. Well, not new, but like probably for the last decade. And I
Yeah.
work on it all the time, like daily. I think when we align with the ownership of how to neutralize patterns
Mhm.
in our life, it just naturally begins to elevate everything
Right.
because we just hone in on this beautiful awareness
Mhm.
around why am I the way I am. It releases the judgment on everyone outside of us, which begins the exploration into an empowered life. And so I really find that when we begin to neutralize negative thinking,
Mhm.
therefore the feeling,
Yeah.
and my friend Laura Katanen, I always give her a shout out of Ziello Studio. She's amazing. And she talks about the sensations. And I've got many stories around elephants and buffalo that are crazy, but they're beautiful and we can relate to them. When we are really anxious,
Mhm.
we're lacking confidence, we're insecure, we're in fear, whatever we're going through within the human condition. And we begin to understand that we can neutralize the experience just by our thought process.
Mhm.
Now we get to calm the nervous system down. We can use thought energy to start to breathe and create coherence. So the pattern becomes less, and over time we can dissolve it. And neutrality puts us into that power seat because
Mhm.
now we no longer want to go into anything negative. Why would we? We
Yes.
now want to go more into a positive environment. And I'm not saying dismiss real, true hardship and challenge and trauma and all of that that has a negative energy to it.
Mhm.
This is, for our conversation, this is a way to begin to use the structure of energy around our thinking process to neutralize the pattern, to allow space to expand on something outside of the pattern itself.
Mhm. I love this because I think that, neutrality, this is what, comes to mind for me when I'm listening to you go through this explanation, which I think is just so spot on, because it reminds me of things like, Wayne Dyer he had a book, Getting Into the Gap, and he speaks about that space in between the words.
Yeah,
And, that to me is neutrality. It's
it is.
also in A Course in Miracles when you make statements like, "I wish to see this differently." It keeps neutrality open so that there's opportunity. It's perception and opportunity to, do something else, and by not, like you're saying, it's kind of like what I heard you say, and I'm just doing my own interpretation, is that it is that chance you're putting your everything on hold, like you were speaking about, your nervous system has the opportunity to kinda, like, slow it down and
Mhm,
get into a space, right? That
mhm.
your state then becomes this open openness without judgment, without the energy of the patterns that you were saying, and I'm just kinda reiterating what you said because I think it's just so important, that we all start to understand how this type of attention to our empowerment, as you say, is so incredibly important, and we have not really given its place in our lives.
Right. And I love how you bring up the gap. I was talking to someone the other day, a client, about this. Do not look at that challenge in the negative, right? Here we go.
Mhm.
Think of the challenge as this empowered contrast opportunity. Observe it rather than judge it.
Yeah.
And understand that it can be recalibrated into a neutral thought, which
Mhm.
again allows us to create more expansion into a positive outcome or experience.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree with that. I love this topic because, it's something that, it's very near and dear to me and in my work as well. I'd like to know, so if hmm, how do I wanna ask this question?
And if I may say, while you're
Yeah.
thinking,
Yes.
while you're thinking, this is also something where team development and team leadership also can really transform uh,
Mhm.
businesses and entrepreneurship and creativity. When you begin to look at not letting thought just blow through you, but taking a moment, that's the power again, back of
Mhm.
neutrality, and looking at the thought and how can I actually activate it to really come out with something that benefits myself personally, because that empowered journey has to take place first. And then it empowers everyone else. And can you imagine a small business or a large? I've spoken to both, where everyone is thinking, how can I empower my
Mhm.
thought process, neutralize judgment and patterns that we all have been experiencing, so I may empower you. When we're all doing that together, now you've got an empowered environment.
Yes, and I think that, this leads me to my next question. So I was gonna ask you something a little bit different around creativity, but I'll get back to it. When you speak of, like, the assistance of you being empowered and helping others be empowered, it's like there's, when you hang around people that are doing the same things, it then, of course, just grows, right? And I was reading something, this morning that when we put our attention out here, that's where things expand. So if I focus on one particular thing, that maybe it's a relationship, that relationship will expand and grow in the ways that I give it attention. Yet if I do the inner attention, then what I'm doing is feeding myself and that continues to grow. And so then it's going to also just affect everyone else around me. So what I hear you speaking of is
Yeah.
building a movement just by connection. And that rolls into the question I was going to ask, if you don't mind,
Of course not.
um, is the creating relationships and co-creative relationships. How do you maintain we can talk about all of this, right? And you and I probably do this a lot more than maybe average person. Um, Not that they don't. Yet, it's kind of like the way our minds work and we're constantly focused on it. So how do you keep your energy up? Because we all have life happening.
Right.
And it triggers all those, like, other things that are in us that, will always kind of come up to be released, released, released. So how do we maintain, like, this higher level of energy
Yeah.
and mindset in this direction when we get kind of, like, plummeted down with our childhood
Yeah.
belief systems that, plug us into those baseline survival, um, vibrations that are lower, yet they happen, we're human. I mean, we're in this dense body, right? So, how do we do that?
Yeah, so for me, that's a kind of a two-part question. So childhood energies are one whole system that we can discuss. And yes,
Mhm.
we carry that imprint with us. And again, this is where the power of the formula is just so transformational
Mm,
because it allows us to observe rather than judge. And the power seat of observation is very different than the experience of judgment. They're
yeah,
two very different environments. But moving into how do you really maintain, cultivate, and sustain a more empowered I think, life. I'm going through a lot right now. I have people that always are like, "Are you always this happy? Are you always this excited? Are you always, this high energy?" And yes, I am for the most part. But I have a family that's getting older. I'm starting
Mhm.
to move into that experience.
Yeah.
I have a very dear friend that is 3 times now battling with cancer.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I look at everything the way I do through the formula. What am I
Mhm.
aware of? What am I willing to do about that awareness? What is my accountability in this experience? Right? I can choose to be very sad and very down and very negative, thus affecting everything and everyone around me. Or I can choose to honor the gifts of that friendship, of that relationship, of all of what we have connected on in this lifetime. And that immediately co-regulates, right? That
Mhm.
anxiety and that stress that you can feel like in your belly, or that you may get a
Yes.
headache in your head. So this isn't saying just dismiss what is happening and pretend that you're happy. This is saying that you have the opportunity in times of challenge
Mhm.
to go into the power seat of choice. Will you place difficulty upon it, or will you place gratitude upon it?
Right.
I choose to always be in a state of appreciation and look for what is the gift, or what has been the gifts in that connection, even though there's some really sad energy around it. And I'm able to honor the reality, but then my heart gets full and I can
Mhm.
feel that little flutter again of life force. And
Mm.
just through gratitude, I just
Mhm.
appreciate what I have with those people, and thoughts and prayers and good energy to what we're all experiencing. But if you stay in a negative state of thought process, you
Mhm.
will only experience negativity.
Mhm.
Learn how to recalibrate the negative thought processes, you will begin to neutralize how you're feeling, how
Mhm.
you're reacting or responding. And then you have a moment of clarity as to, okay, maybe I can't make this highly positive, but I do not have to reside in negativity around this situation anymore. I can neutralize it through appreciation and gratitude.
That's I mean, gratitude, I think, is such a powerful, one of the most powerful tools that you have, and that anyone can do and everyone can do.
Yeah.
And it does take the concentration and focus to make this a number one priority for yourself. That you really can change how your state at any moment. Um, and you hear people say this a lot, or I hear it often, is that you can instantly change. You can instantly change anything that you want in any moment. It really just takes the commitment and the willingness to let go. And I know that for myself, and I just want to speak from my own experience because I know that this can be challenging for people. Like, we'll go along and we'll be able to do this for a while. And you have a formula, which I think is brilliant because I think that really helps people to understand how to break it down for themselves. And you're giving very logical steps that are relatable. And through that, it allows you to stay more committed when you get thrown off. What I hear you saying is to really reflect back into that gratitude and make the choice to stay on track through the different practices of the formula.
Yes, because it takes more energy to stay connected to the
Mhm.
negativity.
Yeah.
We've tricked ourselves into thinking no, but
Mhm.
I'm telling you, yes. It's just like muscles in the face. It takes
Yeah.
more muscles to frown than to smile. But our mindset is structured in the way that we think it's opposite. So again, it's always honor the
Yeah.
realness of what you're going through, but also empower that experience
Yes.
by choice and willingness, and whether you do it through awareness or accountability or critical thinking, you
Mhm.
move the energy from that holding pattern that we can all hold on to it for our entire lives if we want to.
Yeah.
But now ask yourself why. Why am I staying so connected to this way of thinking? It doesn't make me feel good. I've got all these kind of output markers, headaches, gut issues,
Mhm.
weight issues, maybe not fully happy relationships. What's going on here? How come this is all happening? And this is where really thought energy again comes right into play, and how the J3 equals E formula, applicable, simple, impactful. And you can run it through every scenario, and you start to understand that I don't have to stay attached to that. I can honor it. I can
Mhm.
feel it in my heart, but I can also use that brain heart coherence and bridge the gap,
Yeah.
use that contrast to soften it, i.e.,
Mhm.
neutralize it, and really start to make it a more positive experience than a negative one.
Mm. I really love that. It also, I think that people, generally go back to those old patterns, one, because it's the devil,
Yeah.
right? And we also have a fear around, how great we can be, and the accountability to ourselves that comes with it. Do you agree with that? Do you see that in your work at all?
Yes, and we have this beautiful acronym here for fear. My brother and I instilled this in one another a long time ago.
Mhm.
We have a neuromuscular training facility where we train like gymnasts, and you can't have
Yeah,
fear when you're up on rings and on a high bar.
yeah.
So we recalibrate fear when someone has fear. And again, always, always acknowledge it and
Mm.
always honor it. But then we move into the power seat of choice. We
Mhm.
activate, right?
Mhm.
Neutrality. And now, what if I were to say to you, rather than feel fear, allow the thought energy to surround what I'm going to tell you? Forever empowered and resourceful.
Mm.
Always forever empowered and resourceful. Now you know when you choose, you are an empowered individual, because we're always empowered. It's
Mm.
just the choice that either locks us into disempowerment or turns the key to empowerment. And we are resourceful creatures. All
Right.
the way back to the beginning of time and all the way down the road, we are resourceful. When push comes to shove and our backs are against the wall, i.e., challenges, we know what to do. We
Right.
do, whether
Eh,
we choose to or not, right? That's
yes,
the difference
it's
between an
true.
empowered life. Yeah.
I mean, we are wired for a certain amount of resilience,
Yeah.
right? And that's always going to be there. It's not even something that you necessarily have to activate, it just is. And, I love this mantra for when you're in fear,
Yeah.
that forever empowered and resourceful.
Yeah. It changes the whole energetic
Yeah.
structure of what you're experiencing. So right now, and again, we're not talking about real fear in
Mhm.
very bad situations. We're talking about when
Yeah.
the mind and the patterns and the behaviors and the habits, right, create this personality that we've attached
Mhm.
ourselves to, and fear and insecurity and doubt and anxiety and all of the humanness we go through. When we understand that built into the human condition is observance. It's
Yeah.
option. It's self-authorizing how we
Mhm.
want to
Mm.
expand our
Good.
own presence in this world. And you
Mhm.
do that when you remind yourself that I was born an empowered being.
Yeah.
Everything we went through in the process was just to ignite the elevation. That's it.
Right.
Nothing else has to stick to us except go forward, keep advancing, keep elevating, keep evolving. And you do have the resources. Now
Mhm.
more than ever, we have this little thing that connects us to every bit of information and knowledge to
Yeah.
help begin the process into a resourceful mindset, and
Yes.
i.e., thought energy.
I love that because I think you're really honing in on the fact that, that you said self-authorizing,
Yeah,
and it's absolutely true. So what I interpret what you said, and I hope you don't mind me kinda mirroring back what
I
I'm
love
hearing
that.
because I think it's important for all maybe I'll trigger something else as well, but it sounds like, Okay, I speak about this often, that you kind of have to walk in two worlds, right? There's the elevated mindset of, how you're thinking and being aware of the patterns, just not attaching to the patterns, right? So that's that self-authorization that you speak of. And so it allows you to start to understand that sometimes the things that are coming into our life are areas of weakness that we may have in our energy. And so if we can kind of think of it maybe a little bit differently, it might help us to recognize that it isn't something that needs to bring us down. And I think fear is one of those things that can really bring a person back down and lower their energy field if they attach to it. And it's a practice. Does that sound right to you? Or
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Again, so even my coach mindset goes to weakness, no.
Mhm.
Opportunity, yes.
Mm,
Or an environment of unawareness.
mm.
For me, so that's how I was raised. So we never, I mean, my brother and I thought we could, fly off the roof of our house. We didn't attempt
Yeah,
that.
that's
Kind of,
fair.
well, we did. We have some funny stories, but my point is, we believed that we had these abilities that we could tap into if things were different. And
Mm,
it could be different conversations. But most of us have come into the human condition in a pretty regular way. We all go through heartache and hardship. We get a great job, we lose a job, we fall in love, we get our heart broken, we have money,
mhm.
we don't. Political, educational environments. We're all kind of getting, our ear kind of tweaked
Yeah,
all the
right.
time. And so I don't ever look at anything, um, even the scale of negativity to me in my brain, it wires as opportunity, contrast, the gap.
Mhm.
It's never a solid contract that I sign to stay there. It's an opportunity to re-sign to the next level of elevation. And I understand this is a discipline, it is a practice, and yet it isn't. New
Mhm.
sciences are starting to gather scientific data and
Yeah.
research of how probably it could be 50 years from now, maybe 150 or 5 years from now, we will be able to heal aspects of our body. We will be able to think differently in order to change our environments. We're in infant stages of
Yeah.
higher evolutionary, I think, knowledge and conversations, and some of us
Mhm.
tap into it. And I think those of us that tap into it, who have mentors that are tapping into higher levels. And so we have
Mhm.
all these beautiful variations. So one word or one sentence or one live show actually transforms someone else's mindset. And
Right.
then they bring it back. And then they start talking to their husband and their wife and their children differently. Or maybe they say hello to their neighbor that they never waved to.
Mhm.
It's so small, but these are the energetic movements that change societies. And it starts again, I always bring it back. The most beautiful, impactful journey that we can take is the relationship with self,
Yeah.
because then it authenticates the experience, which takes information and transfers it into knowledge. And then we get to guide one another. So,
Yeah.
yes, reading, studying, applying, listening to knowledge that kind of just for a moment, like ignites a little spark in us.
Mhm.
And if we're like, I can't do that, I can't think that way, I don't have time for that. Right there, ask yourself, what are you aware of in the moment? Limited thinking. What are you willing to do? Oh, I'm going to listen to Josette's lives from now on. Beautiful. Oh, I'm going to read The Science of Empowerment. I'm going to become
Yep.
coachable. Self
Yeah.
accountability. I get to change because I'm empowered.
Right.
Doesn't matter if I wasn't 2 seconds ago. I'm empowered now. I've heard it. I
Yeah.
know. Now, critical thinking, if you get all emotional about it, right? We start getting too deep into the negative feelings. No, this is why I love critical thinking. It's the fourth
Mhm.
principle in this formula. It allows you to suspend the doubt long enough for a new pattern to be activated. It doesn't mean it's going to stay in place. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're going to become someone completely different. It means you're starting to
Right.
Light in your potential, i.e., your exploration into an empowered life. And then you get to go out and empower everyone around you, which brings
Yeah.
us into the fifth principle, energy. Now we're neutralizing our own being in order to positively have impact on the world.
Mm, I love it. I love it. This is so beautiful, and I'm so glad that you came and, said yes to me to
Yes.
have this conversation, and, is there anything that you have that you would like to share with anyone out here who's listening, um, that you have coming up, that you would like people to know about? I'm gonna be putting all of your links into, both Instagram and YouTube. So all of that will be there. People can reach you. And I'd like to know, is there anything else that you want the audience to know?
No, I just, again, gratitude and thank you for the opportunity to meet with you before and certainly have this experience with you. I think for anyone that doubts their beauty and their inner power, I'm going to ask you to suspend it long enough, use thought energy, and replace it with something creative and empowering for you. We all have a uniqueness and a speciality that is needed in this world. And even if it's the smallest expression, it has such a grand ripple effect out into the world. And so I ask everyone, of course, read The Science of Empowerment. I pretty much can promise you it will shift many things, not just one thing, many things in your life. But what it will
Mm,
do is it will reflect back to the reader just how magnificent you are. And one of the really famous kind of quotes that people know around the science of empowerment is to not glance at the power, become the power. And so
mm.
I'd like to leave that with the audience.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Laura. It
Thank you.
was such a pleasure to like have this conversation with you. And you just dropped so many beautiful gems here for people to grab onto. And I really just love how you really brought home the sense of neutrality. And, you did say something that I think I just kind of want to reiterate once more is like you said, even those small things that we do, they do ripple out. And it's the energy in which you deliver it. Like the smallest connection has a strength to it. And so
Absolutely.
I just really love everything that you are doing in the world. And I feel so honored that you were here. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So everyone, we will see you next week. We have a Soulful Pause every Thursday at 9 a.m. And I look forward to our next guest coming up next week. And I like to keep it a surprise. So keep coming back. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye.